Hey Tigers, I'm here with the SG ticket. It's time. We've got
LeJeune
and Angelina Cantelli.
And we're going to go over some of their initiatives and what their plans are for if they get in office.
Yeah, we're so excited to be here. This is so fun.
So tell me a little bit about some of your initiatives that you guys have going on.
Yeah, sure. So currently I serve as Go Vote. Avery's. So currently I serve as Go Vote president and simultaneously serve as the ambassador to the Andrew Goodman Foundation. So one of our main initiatives is institutionalizing civic engagement and voter registration here on LSU's campus. I think that one thing that LSU really has neglected over the past year is the student body president role at the Capitol and role in actual government and policies. And I think that if we had a culture on LSU's campus that valued voting and valued civic engagement, then we'd have more turnout in elections that support policies and candidates who are in it to see higher education be fully funded or here to give LSU resources. I know that one thing that really stuck out to me, hate to mention it, but the Hush Blackwell report was that LSU's funding has been cut a remarkable 16 times, and doing less with more in these situations does not work. So having policies and candidates be supported on election day by 37,000 students cannot hurt, but it starts with institutionalizing voter registration. So from the moment they get to campus, they should be registered to vote when they're enrolling for their food and for their living. And then that should be carried out, and that education should be ingrained in them at their time during LSU.
Absolutely. Another thing we're really passionate about is, I'm the president or co-president of Tigers Against Sexual Assault. And so we want to value safety and health for every student on this campus. So first and foremost, we are of the belief, and we've told President Galligan multiple times this week, that any person who played a role in covering up sexual assault allegations should be fired. But we're also here to hold the university accountable in these commitments they've made in establishing this new Title IX office and making sure that survivors are treated well on campus. And then when it comes to the health side of it, we want to see mental health services streamlined at the Student Health Center. We want you to be able to make an appointment online for your mental health appointments, because as a person with anxiety, I know that it's stressful having to call and admit that I'm struggling through something. And I can only imagine what so many students go through, and that's a deterrent for them to get the proper help that they need. We also want to ensure that with the current pandemic we're going through, that in the fall, while we can hopefully return to normal in a sense and be safe, we're also doing it in a smart way. We want to ensure that even when vaccines are being rolled out, we have testing centers and mask mandates and things that are going to make sure that our students are being protected.
Another thing that we want to address, we have a lot of initiatives.
Yeah.
Our whole thing is
Let me have it.
We have the why and the how, so we don't only just have values that we want to see accomplished. We actually have a way to get there, and are starting to have the conversations to get there. So I'm super excited about that. So I'm telling you, you'll have plenty of footage. So sustainability is also another big thing that we want to address on campus. We actually just got back from a meeting with President Tom Galligan about the issue regarding recycling. I know student media has definitely done a lot of stories on how recycling trucks are actually not picking up the items placed in the recycling bin, and those items are going straight to the landfill. So we scheduled a meeting with President Galligan to address some of these issues before we're even in office, because it's important. And they were not aware of the challenges surrounding recycling and waste management on LSU's campus. So making sure that we're working with administrators to actually address sustainability and environmental issues on LSU's campus is incredibly important. We have the water campus right down the road, and incredible research and studies being done by talented professors and graduate students surrounding the environment and sustainability. But at the same time, our administration isn't living up to what they teach us to do here at the university to protect, especially Louisiana, and prevent coastal erosion. So I'm very passionate about getting solar panels on buildings and more composting on Greek Row, making sure that we're avoiding food waste at the 459 and the 5. That's super important to both of us. Like a big issue in Louisiana, I know that I don't really have that traditional student government experience, but I do bring in a lot of outside perspectives. I took off my sophomore year to work for Governor Edwards' re-election campaign. I've worked with Mayor Broome, various other state legislators, and I've also worked on various ballot initiatives. And a lot of times, a number one issue for me and a candidate is how are they going to address sustainability and environmental issues on, campus, in our community, and in Louisiana. And so having, LSU become a pillar of that research, but also act on the research that they're promoting is, critical.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I would say kind of the last little point in our policy is diversity, equity, and inclusion. We saw so much come to light, and people really start to take notice to the things that have been affecting the Black community over last summer, but there are so many communities on this campus who are underrepresented and undervalued, and we want to be sure that we are able to not be the voice for those students, but to amplify their voices, because so many students are already doing this work. So a few things we want to do with that is, first and foremost, keep the building renaming committee accountable. We know that they've been doing work over the last few months. We know that work is private for a reason, but we want to ensure that students who put their heart and soul into making sure that this would happen know what's going on. We want to make sure that students in the Black community are aware that action is being taken, that LSU hasn't forgotten about them. We also want to ensure that as student government, we're valuing minority organizations, for Black students, for Hispanic students, for LGBTQ plus students, all of those organizations who create a safe space for students on this campus. We want to be ensure that we are helping them through funding. Something me and I really want to look into is having a fund that can go towards, specifically a line item in our fund that can go towards events partnered with those organizations, so that they're able to get funding for some of these things they've been dreaming of doing for years. And then lastly, we want to cooperate with Southern more often and have joint events together. And something that we really want to see happen with Southern specifically is us hold multiple fundraiser initiatives for NPHC plots. This has been something that student government has been promising for years, and I know that it's a big money item and that's going to take a lot of work, but we're committed to doing everything we can to have fundraiser after fundraiser if we have to be able to pay for those things, because frankly, not to be cliche, but it's time for those kind of things to happen on campus.
It's time.
Yeah.
I like that. Yes.
Right, I have another line to add, but a lot of students don't realize how much money student government actually has. I've been listening in on Senate meetings and trying to follow up on all the initiatives that we have going on this year as we move into administration next year. And it was really surprising to me to hear that student government is responsible for hundreds of thousands of dollars that needs to be going directly to these organizations, especially organizations for communities of color. And I definitely don't see that being prioritized currently, and I think that it needs to be addressed now. And that's why we really want to reinvigorate and reestablish the President's Council to make sure that we're hearing out students' voices, and like Angelina said, not only listening to them, but creating a space where we can amplify their voices with the President's office and administrators and legislators, and even all the way up to the governor's office. That's critical for us, is engaging students that are often left out of the table. And one example of that is our partnership with graduate students. Graduate students oftentimes are not included on a full campus ticket with undergraduate students, and so that means that the full force of student government isn't always behind their issues, but they actually have a lot of issues. They're not being paid appropriately, they have poor working conditions, they're not provided with health insurance, and these students are what makes LSU a research institution, a flagship university. So making sure that we're prioritizing them and their the needs that they need to be addressed is a role of the student body president. And I'm proud to say that we're the only ticket with graduate students running on our ticket. And I think that speaks volumes to Angelina and I's ability to bring different areas of campus together. They're adults with families and children and are coming here to pursue a better life and a better education here at the university, and recognize the kind of influence and, high standard of education we have here at LSU. And a lot of times they're not treated as such in their pay and are forced to take, extra jobs, below minimum wage jobs that are technically not even legal. To be able to meet their needs, to find proper housing, to feed their families. And that's unacceptable from a university as privileged and wealthy as LSU.
Another off-the-record thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, every student pays like $250, I believe, that goes into the student government fund. It's like, that adds up. Yeah.
It adds up real fast, and a lot of that money is supposed to go directly to
back to the students.
Back to the students, and a lot of times it just sits in the fund.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows about it.
Right.
So making sure that we communicate that and be like, this money is available to you.
Yeah.
This is your money. Take it is so important to us. I mean, you can do it if you want to go to a conference that promotes your education.
Yeah.
If you want to go, travel out of state to do, a conference or an extracurricular learning opportunity. the university has funds to pay for that, and a lot of students are missing out on opportunities because they don't realize that.
Yeah.
You guys answered some questions there.
Yeah. I know we can talk for a long time.
We're very passionate about these issues.
Oh, I love it. So, I think what can students expect within your first 50 days in office?
I'll take the lead on this. So I would say for me as student body vice president, well, Mia and I, first and foremost, would establish an executive staff. So writing the executive charter, deciding what positions we want to have within our executive staff, and then appointing people to those positions and hopefully pushing them through Senate temporary rules to get confirmed. And then I know for me as vice president, I would be in charge of college council, specifically on the executive branch. And something I really want to do is bring college council to be more cohesive with executive staff and to be recognized as a vital part of student government. This is, the part that directly represents senior colleges and represents the specific needs of students across all fields of study. And I want to be sure that we're utilizing it correctly. So I have a lot of ideas, and I could go into student government specifics about how to restructure college council, but I want to appoint someone to be a chief of staff-esque figure for that branch. Normally, it's just the vice president running it by him or herself, and I think that gets exhausting because the vice president also does external work, meeting with administrators and legislators, and so I want to have a chief of staff who can effectively run that branch and is dedicated to doing just that. And I also want to steal something from our student senate. They have legislative officers like director of communications, director of programming, director of development that are also simultaneously senators, and so I want to see college council have the same thing with college council members to help them run more effectively. And so setting up those things, laying the groundwork for that. And then I know Mia has a lot she wants to do with the president's cabinet, which I'll let her speak about in a second. But also for us is we really want to utilize the executive order a lot more. I know as student body vice president, I'm not the one signing those, it's Mia, but we are a partnership, and we want to be able to push legislation as an executive office. And so utilizing executive orders, writing as many as we have to get the university's attention within the first 50 days is really one of our top priorities.
And I'll just add to that, like I said earlier, reestablishing and reinvigorating the president's cabinet is incredibly important to me. As the president of Go Vote, I didn't even realize I was a sitting member of the president's cabinet until February when I got my first email saying, this is the first meeting. I was like, we've been working on issues, haven't heard from you once. I mean, we just got out of the biggest election of our lifetime, and we didn't really hear from student government. And so definitely, making sure that students are aware, making sure that we're working actively with them throughout the summer is such an important part in making sure that whenever we start pushing those EOs and start pushing legislation, that students' needs are actually being met, and those things that they want to see addressed are, going to be done. I know that, executive orders are not something that are utilized a lot in student government, but I think that it's important in the crisis that we're in as a nation and a state and a university, that students, don't waste any time, that we speak up and we create change now. And then I know that whenever we go in to take office, we're going to be going in Louisiana's legislature is going to be going. I know that Louisiana's legislature is going to, my mom fussed at me last night for that. She's like, you say legislator a lot. And I was like, I do. Oopsies. No, but the Louisiana legislature is going to be going into a session where they're going to be passing bills. A lot of them are going to be financial bills, which is really exciting for LSU as we're always in need of more funding for higher education. And I think it's a really great opportunity for Angelina and I to, make our faces known at the Capitol and build those relationships with representatives so they know that the students are holding them accountable, because as elected officials, they are also our, representatives, and they speak for us and our needs. So we need to make sure that they are actually doing so. And so I definitely want to work with them more in those first 50 days. But also, whenever we were at the hearing on Wednesday, a lot of students and I saw Josh walk past. Sorry. I saw, we made direct eye contact. I was like, hey. No, but anyway, whenever we were on Wednesday, we went to the state capitol to, listen to survivors and hear what state legislators had to say about the Hush Blackwell report, hear Tom Galligan testify, and just, listen in on this, incredible change that's being made on our campus as we speak. And a lot of them said, I have a few bills left that I can push through in the next session. Even though it's a financial session, like, I will be willing to push some sexual assault things through for LSU and for higher education. So making sure that students are a part of those conversations that are being held, I think is incredibly important. I think one of the challenges that, we saw with this sexual assault thing come out and, just over the years with every issue LSU has faced is that administrators are not listening to students. And it's one thing that I say all the time, the university doesn't, we don't work for the university works for us. Yeah. And I think that's incredibly important to remember that we need to start demanding a seat at these tables. Even though some people believe that it's out of reach of the scope of student government to start, demanding more from the governor and legislators and the mayor's office and the Metro Council, I completely disagree. I think those are the conversations that we need to be in on. And when we're missing out on those conversations, then we're missing out on opportunities to see a better LSU. And I think it's crucial to have a leader who's confident and comfortable in those spaces and can speak up for the needs of students.
Absolutely. No, I agree with everything you said. I think you hit the nail on the head, and I was thinking that right after I finished speaking. I was like, I forgot to mention the session is in our first 50 days. So you can absolutely expect me and I to be at the Capitol. Whether or not we win, honestly, we'll probably be there on behalf of LSU, but we definitely want to be there in the capacity as student body president and vice president.
I'm confident.
So how do you plan to keep the university administration accountable for certain things that they may do or they don't do?
Yeah, absolutely. So like we mentioned earlier, we actually met with President Galligan right before this, and something we told him was, President Galligan, I think you as leader appreciate honesty, and I think you can expect us to disagree with you a lot if we are to win this. Well, he already knows that we disagree with him on some things. So I was like,
pretty vocal.
I was like, you can expect that to continue happening. And I think it's because you deserve students who are going to be honest with you about how the student body feels. And if we don't do that, then we have failed as student leaders. And, he was open to that and he recognized that and he hopes that we can find compromise, of course. And so I think that's, I think that's first and foremost is remembering that, I am not afraid to make President Galligan mad. I don't believe that he's one to hold grudges. I think that he would rather an honest student leader. And so always keeping that honesty, even when it's an awkward and uncomfortable conversation. And then also, we've talked about the legislature so much, but, if we feel like we aren't heard by the university administration, I'm not afraid to take it to their bosses. As student body president, Mia would be eligible to run for the Board of Supervisors and the Board of Regents, which oversees all universities in Louisiana. And so she would be a voice at those tables, but we both of us could also be a voice at the state capitol and go directly to the people who fund LSU, the people who are the governor who appoints the Board of Supervisors, we're not afraid to go over people's heads if we have to, quite frankly, and that sounds harsh, but it's what it takes to see real change at LSU, and we're dedicated to that.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything Angelina just said. And, we've said from the beginning, for us, this isn't a resume booster or a recommendation letter for us. This is about seeing a better LSU. And we told that to President Galligan straight up this morning. And we're really honest with him. And he said that he is disappointed when he sees students try to stand arm in arm with the administration on every single issue. And he was, proud of students for starting to speak up. And I think that Angelina and I's leadership styles embody that. I think a lot of people misconstrue, confidence and accountability for bullying. And that's never the case. You never want to go into a situation being a bully, but you definitely want to have confidence. And your number one goal should always be to empower students. And I think if you are not feeling empowered in a situation, then how can you be a representative for students? And for me, going into every room with confidence and clarity and respect is the number one priority, but definitely making sure that students' needs are met. And I think that we saw yesterday, not yesterday, when was that? Wednesday, that, Angelina and I and other leaders across campus are not afraid to take it to their bosses. I love that line. I definitely think that, going to the state legislator, going to the governor, going to the people who appoint them and confirm them is critical. Everybody has a boss. There's always someone with more power. And I think that it's important to remember that even, despite common belief, the LSU head football coach has a boss. He's not the most powerful man in America, despite what some people might believe. So I definitely think that, holding these people accountable, going to the higher levels, not being afraid to speak up is the best way to hold leaders accountable. And then to reference something that Angelina brought up, the Board of Supervisors has come under a lot of scrutiny recently because of its lack of female representation. Out of the 17 members, only 2 are women. And I'm super excited about this ticket and this campaign because not only would it give me an opportunity to be a third female voice on the committee and on the Board of Supervisors, but it would definitely give a lot of women across campus a voice. Angelina and I, if and when elected, are going to be the first simultaneously serving female student body president and vice president. And I'm super proud to say that we have, 114 candidates, which is the largest number in student government history, and 72% of those candidates are women. So, the women are leading this campaign. I always say this is a girls' campaign, and I mean it. And I'm super excited about that. I think it's going to bring a lot of change and sincerity to these roles. And I'm hopeful that, we can be leaders in these spaces and create a place for women at the table. And not only that, our male, the males who are running on our ticket are also incredible, dedicated public servants. And I'm super excited to have them, but it's also super important to prioritize, diverse voices and perspectives in these spaces, especially on a university campus as big as LSU.
So I want to thank you guys for coming out to interview with me today, telling me about some of your initiatives, letting the students know who you guys are. I'm pretty sure they already know who you are. You guys are so loud with your voices. It's hard not to see you guys.
Thank you.
Just making the real change that needs to happen. But do you guys have anything else that you want to tell me, tell the people? Where can the people
I actually do have something.
Oh, go ahead. Where can they find us too? Yeah.
Oh, so I don't know the Instagram names. So they're all different. You can do that one. But Election Day is March 24th. Active Campaign Week is the 18th through the 24th. So definitely come out and see us. It's going to be a fun time. We have a lot of treats in store.
Yes, and you can find us on social media. On Instagram, it's.time.21, no apostrophe. On Twitter, it's time_21, also no apostrophe. So feel free to follow us there and stay connected and engaged with our campaign.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks, guys.
That's it.
Action. I did not just do that.